Again?
No. Oh, yes, again. But it's also
It's
just completely bizarre. What did you do? Turn it on and turn
All
it
I'm
off?
doing is I just flip the camera once, and then I guess it uses the right camera. I don't know. That's strange. Very strange indeed.
a gift.
Okay, so yesterday we saw the amazing idea that the Rebbe taught us.
What's the page again? Sorry.
Last page. The Shin Samach Ches. The Rebbe taught us how Ani L'Dodi is a higher level than V'Dodi Li. And for that reason, Ani L'Dodi is first. Meaning chronologically, Dodi Li is first. First is a revelation from above. Yudgim Yisrachimim. And only afterwards is there a response is our response, Ani L'Dodi, which is triggered by the Yudgim Yisrachimim. So why is it first then? In simple pshat, we know it's first Ayurveda from below and then the revelation from above. And the Alter Rebbe says that revelation from above simply is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. But since the Rebbe from Oish Zion has been teaching us that the Iker of Dodi Li is the Yudgim Yisrachimim in the Sada in Elul, that happens first, which triggers Ani L'Dodi, which is a revelation of who you and I really are. Therefore, we want to go to Dodi. We want to be one with our beloved Eibishter. Why Ani L'Dodi first? Because it's a higher level of Elokus. It's a level of the revelation of the essential connection of the essence of the soul to the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as opposed to Dodi Li is our light, infinite godly energy, which is amazing and incredible, but it's not Etzem. Essence is higher than infinite light. The infinite light, ultimately, its source is in Etzem. Okay. V'zeo, let's see the end of the Maamer. V'zeo Ani L'Dodi v'Dodi Li Rosh Hashanah v'Elul. And this is what it means when it says Ani L'Dodi v'Dodi Li is Rosh Hashanah v'Elul. The Yesh Leimar. This we saw just at the beginning of this, right? The v'Dodi Li shebarash tevas Elul kai beikar al gilui the Yudgim Yisrachimim sheba Elul v'zeh shenemar v'Dodi Li ach la'achre Ani L'Dodi. Well, this is what we just said outside, which we said we're going to understand more today. We're going further, and that which Ani L'Dodi is Dodi Li is after Ani L'Dodi af, even though shagilui the Yudgim Yisrachimim, that the revelation of the Yudgim Yisrachim sheba Elul hu Hanasinas Kayach Alaveded Ani L'Dodi is the Nasinas Kayach for the relative to the Avodah of Ani L'Dodi, first Dodi Li, and that triggers Ani L'Dodi. Instant after Rebbe says Nasinas Kayach. So this is the last line we saw yesterday. Who ki? Why? B'pnimis Anyanim Ani L'Dodi Avodah Sa'adam Hu L'maylam Mi B'Dodi Li. Ani L'Dodi, which is our Avodah, which is an expression of our essential connection to the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the source of that Aveda is the desire in Atzmus for Adir B'Tachtonim, for a dwelling place in the lower realms, and that desire is expressed specifically through our Aveda. So up there in the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what is the Eibishter thinking about, so to speak? Our Aveda.
You got mine like 6?
I just got the line 4 in Ois Ches. Right? Brackets, parentheses, Avedis Adam. Therefore, Ani L'Dodi Avedis Adam, Hu L'maylo Mi V'Dodi Li. It's a higher level than V'Dodi Li, which is, and saying this word before this is rather astounding, but that's what we're saying. Only a Gilui Mi L'maylo. It's only a revelation of infinite godly light. Ukenal Sivav V'Siv Zayin, as we said earlier in chapter 6 and chapter 7. Shakavona, the intention, Bahagilui the Yudgim Yisrachimim, the reason that is revealed, and to say it on a deeper level, this is based on what the Rebbe told us earlier in the Maamer, the whole reason that level of godly reality exists. Right, as we said earlier, every single aspect of reality outside the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu only exists because the Eibishter wants it to. There is nothing that has what's called mechuyev v'metzias. It must be. The only thing that must be and can't disappear is etzem. If the Eibishter decided that there will no longer be a revelation of his energy that you and I call light, so there won't be light. That means there wouldn't be a world, there wouldn't be a lot of stuff. Okay, but say, is that possible? Well, theoretically, the Eibishter decides, I've had enough light. Light's nice. 5,785 years is enough. God forbid. No. What are we going to do in Rosh Hashanah? We're going to try to be ma'arer in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, a ratzon to be melech. And therefore he'll keep the world alive so he can be melech and we can do what we have to do down here. That's what we do. That's the Aved of Rosh Hashanah. To arouse in a Kadosh Baruch Hu a continued desire to be melech, which means a continued desire for the existence of the world. Right. That's the Aved of Rosh Hashanah. That's why in Rosh Hashanah we don't mention any of our Averas. We don't mention that we sinned. Even in Avinu Malkeinu we take out certain parts. Chatanu lefanecho. Don't say it. Why? Why remind the Kadosh Baruch of the less than pleasant parts of creation? Right? We'll remind them of all the good parts. You're our king, and we want to be your servants. We want to be your king and a subject.
We can sway God.
Yeah, because he wants to be swayed. Everything's because he wants. There's nothing that's absolute, right? Yes, you just learned in this Maamer that you not only can you so to speak sway a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what tefillah is all about, right? That's only because the Eibishter wants that. Why do we have a relationship with the Eibishter, and why is that relationship a real relationship, and why is it that somehow you and I can have an effect on godly reality? Because God wants it that way. There's something essential about that? There's nothing essential about that. That's the way God wants it. He put himself in a situation where you and I have some partnership with him in reality. Amazing. He doesn't have to do that. He wants to do that. Why? I don't know. Just does. Baruch Hashem, because then our life is real. and we get to connect to him, which is really quite astounding. We learned in this Maamer, by virtue of doing Tshuva and Elul, we elevate the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim. We elevate a level of infinite godly light. I can elevate a level of infinite godly light. I'm just, stuck down here with a runny nose. Right? Yeah. I'm saying it with the runny nose and the weird stuff that gets in between your toes at the end of the day. That's us, right? Okay. Those people can affect infinite godly light. Whoa. Why? Because beyond infinite God wants it that way. And so it is. And that's really quite astounding. And that's this whole Maamer has taught us that. It's really quite an astounding thing. Which we shouldn't take for granted. Maybe we should appreciate it. Not that it's not hard work. It's hard work. Right? But it's really quite astounding. Because why is there a revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim? And again, based on what we said earlier in the Maamer, why is there an existence of that level of godly light? Why is there such a thing called Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim? Hu bichdei la'arer avedis adam, is to arouse in you and I the desire to do those things that the Eibishter wants us to do, and that's called avedis adam. V'yedei zeh, and by virtue of this, nase ilui b'Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim, and through this, the Rebbe told us this already, but now he's explaining it in a very, very, very clear way, and he's going to explain it even more deeply in the next 8 lines. There's an elevation of the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim. Now, simply, what have we said generally? They're fulfilling their purpose. And when something fulfills its purpose, so it connects to its source. So it's elevated by virtue of its connection to something higher than it, because its source is higher than it. It's the nature of light. Light, by definition, is all about... Light is a mushal. Light is a parable that you and I use for revealed godly reality. It's not light. It's no waves and particles, or no waves and yes particles, or that's not what Elukus is. Elukus is just being, energy. Okay, so you and I call it light because that's an incredible mushal for it all. That infinite godly light called Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim can be affected by you and I. Why? Because it'll connect to a level higher than it, because every level of light, by definition, has a source higher than it. That's the nature of light. Light has a beginning. Might not have an end, but it has a beginning. Ushnei inyanim b'zeh. There are 2 different aspects to this reality of the Yud Misrachim and our effect on it. Ha'ilui shenase bahagilui milamayla, the elevation that's brought about by virtue of the revelation from above of the Yud Misrachim, al yedei yuridose lamata, by virtue of its descent below, kedei bichdei, in order la'er esa adam. The Yud Gimel Misrachim experience a certain elevation by the essential fact that they descend, but that level of godliness descends below and is revealed below in order to do that which it hasn't done yet. But it's fulfilling its function to be revealed down here in Olam Hazeh. That itself is an elevation for the Yud Gimel Misrachim. But then there's an even greater elevation. What? We respond. So it actually accomplishes that which it descended to accomplish. But by virtue of how that level of godly reality called the Yud Gimel Misrachim, how does it express? How does it fulfill the will for its existence? By revealing itself down here, especially in Elul. We'll talk just about Elul. It can be revealed at any time, but in Elul. Right? So it's fulfilling its purpose. So there's an elevation in that. Okay, but there's a deeper level. Mm-hmm. And the second level, ha'ilui shenase, the elevation that's brought about al yedei hisarerus tshuva da'adam b'feil. The elevation of the Yud Gimel Misrachim by virtue of the fact that you and I actually respond the way we're supposed to respond to this elevation, meaning it actually accomplishes that which it is destined to accomplish. So there's two levels, the Rebbe said. Mitzad the Yud Gimel Misrachim. The very fact that that level of godliness reveals itself in the world is an expression of the purpose of that level of godliness. And the deeper level is that it actually accomplishes that which that revelation is supposed to accomplish, which it brings about a change in you and I. Helps us bring about a change in ourselves. Right? Okay. And in this itself, the Rebbe is not going to say there's two things. In that second level, there's also two different eyes. So it's really three. But it's one, and in the second level, there's 2A and 2B. What's that? Ubezeh atzmi, in this itself, shnei and yonim. And this is a synopsis of everything we've learned. The Rebbe is wrapping everything up, everything that we've learned. Ha'ilui, there's the elevation of the Yud Gimel Misrachim, shemitzad hatainug de lamaylo, that comes as a result of the pleasure above, shebavedas ha'adam, in our Aveda, ubefrat, and particularly, what does the Eibush get special pleasure from? Avedas ha'tshuva, as we saw yesterday. Right? What seems to give the Eibush the greatest pleasure? Someone far away comes close. That doesn't mean that you want to be far away. But if someone's far away, they have to realize that it's not that everything is fallen, everything's over, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can give the Eibush the greatest pleasure imaginable by virtue of coming back from that place. Right? Now, coming back doesn't necessarily mean I've done something wrong and I'm coming back. Coming back also can simply mean that state of reality exists in me and I want to push it to the side and get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So how does that express itself? Well, we're not going to play show and tell. No one's interested in the deepest, darkest secrets of your life, or mine, or anybody's, hopefully. Well, I guess there are people who actually that's what they make their living doing, is talking, making up deep, dark secrets, and then they put it in the little paper at the news when you're waiting in line at the grocery store. But
why doesn't Hashem get greater pleasure from us doing the right thing in the first time?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I can bring a mashal for it, but I have no idea. So that's what he gets pleasure for. Pleasure is not something you can explain rationally. It's the nature of pleasure. It's beyond rational explanation.
What's our source for that?
This Maamer, we just learned about it. The Rebbe just said it at the top of the page. Right? That's what Elul's all about. That's what Yud Gimel Misrachim was all about. That's what the Alter Rebbe's mashal is all about. So, now, you want to explain it rationally? The pleasure a parent will get at the wayward child coming back and marrying someone Chassidish and having a Chassidish wedding. that parent will be dancing more powerfully at that wedding than at any other wedding of their children, because of the miracle of the whole event. Why is that? I don't know. Well, I think we can all appreciate that would probably be the case. He loves this child more than any other. Chas v'shalom, not true at all. But does the wonder of the fact that this child who had such a difficult time when he was 15, 16, 17, 18, who knows where he took himself and what he did and what nonsense he got into, and then all of a sudden he took hold of himself and he changed himself and he brought himself back into a healthier place, and that child now gets married to this amazing young lady, and they're going to build a nice Chassidic home together. The parent has a special simcha at that chasna. There's no question. Now, why? Probably because the Eibishter has a special simcha when we come back. It's not that he's that way because we are. We're that way because he is. Why is he? I don't know. That's the way he is. But one thing that's very, very obvious, he knows exactly what we're dealing with, and he knows exactly the difficulties of Eilam Hazeh. So it's not only the person you described is called a tzaddik. Those aren't the only people that God likes. He likes us too. Right? He likes us too. Baruch Hashem. There are people who are out there making speeches about how the fact that he doesn't like people who do aveiros and they're terrible and they're dark and they're red, and somehow they make a living scaring people. Okay, beside they should live and be well. When those people used to show up in Rav Levi Yitzchak Radichev's town, they were the itinerant preachers that used to go around and strike fear into the hearts of the Jews. He would say all sorts of nasty things about the people sitting in the audience. And after he finished, Rav Levi Yitzchak would look up to this. Has happened many times in Berditchev. Berditchev was a big town. And Rav Levi Yitzchak let him speak. Why did he let him speak? That was his parnasa. And Rav Levi Yitzchak would look up to Shemaim afterwards and say, God, please don't judge this person harshly for saying such terrible things about the Jewish people. Don't punish him. He has a hard life, and he has to marry off some children, and he doesn't have enough money to marry off the children, and he's taking out that which is hard for him on these people. Please be merciful on him and don't punish him for saying negative things about the Jewish people. The rabbi who came to arouse everybody in tshuva, that's what Rav Levi Yitzchak would say about him. Don't punish him. God likes us. Why? I don't know. Don't ask too many questions. He might decide, you know what, they're right. Okay. But tshuva's an amazing thing. The fact that the Eibishter will always take us back, no matter how far we have strayed, right? And how do you express that? How do you experience that in your everyday life? So it might be, this is what I was talking about, the no show and tell. It might be that there's certain parts of you that you're not particularly proud of or impressed by. And that part of you might actually send certain messages to your conscious reality, and you become aware of a particular desire for something or a connection to something, and you're really quite astounded that you have that connection. And it might even be, and you don't find it particularly positive, but you might find it a very, very difficult thing to overcome. Okay. So you might get down on yourself for being such a low life, for having such a subconscious desire that flips into your consciousness. Why don't you look at it like the Rebbe just taught us to? The Rebbe just gave me an opportunity to come extremely close to him by pushing that away. By doing tshuva, coming back from that place. I don't want that. It's called iskafia. Subduing the Yitzhar, which we'll learn about in Basi Lagani. We reveal Sever. The Rebbe says we ultimately reveal Atzmos. Right? So it might very well be the whole purpose of that, and that's the reality of every Jew except the tzaddik. There's a few of those, right? Everybody else is either the Beinoni or the aspiring Beinoni. And how many Beinonim are there out there? Complete Beinonim, that relative to every one of the mitzvahs they are Beinoni. The Rebbe referred to Rav Moshe Weber here in Yerushalayim as my Beinoni in Yerushalayim. Sounds like there's one. Doesn't it? It doesn't say one of my Beinonim in Yerushalayim. It says my Beinoni in Yerushalayim. Rav Moshe Weber, who was an amazing Jew. Who, interesting enough, it's so interesting, here's this holy Yerushalmi. He was Maamer Ani Yerushalmi, round hat, right, Streimel on Shabbos, a Yerushalmi. He was Lubavitcher. He looked like Yerushalmi, right? unbelievably close to the Balei Tshuva in Yerushalayim. You know, like the Balei Tshuva always knew they could go visit Moshe Rebbe. Here's this guy. You think, what does he got to do with anybody who's that so-called sociological Baal Tshuva? You can't relate to where the person came from. You can't relate to anything about them. He lived in Bati Hungaren, right? The houses up behind the shuk in Meir Sharim, right? Moshe Weber used to, if you hung around Moshe, I didn't very much, but I had friends who did spend a lot of time with Moshe Weber, right? He would talk to them and he'd give them big knocks. He'd give them slaps on the cheek all the time. Oh, the Abishter loves you. He'd give you a big smack. It would hurt. He'd give a smack with a big smile. Right? Okay. So here was this holy guy who the Rebbe refers to as a Beinoni. Guess what? If he's a Beinoni, what does that mean? That means he also has bizarre subconscious reality that flips into his consciousness now and then. And what does he do to it? Go away. And I'd imagine it was a pretty simple thing for him at a certain point. They actually, later on in his life, the Rebbe actually referred to him as a tzaddik. He needed a heart operation, and in those days, the place to go for heart operations was South Africa. That's where the cutting edge of cardiology was happening. The first transplants were there, etc. And that's when they had electricity. And so he had arranged to go to a doctor there, and someone told him there's a better doctor in New York. So he wrote the Rebbe and asked the Rebbe, I this is what I'm planning to do, but someone told me there's a better doctor in New York. What should I do? And the Rebbe wrote him back and said, the Eibishter guards a tzaddik wherever he goes. So I guess he got a promotion. That's what the Rebbe said to him. But the Rebbe referred to him as my Beinoni. Okay, so how many Beinonim are there? Not so many. Okay, that means, and even the Beinoni has subconscious schmutz. Okay. What does the Beinoni do? Expresses an incredibly powerful connection to God by not allowing that to roost in his conscious reality. Not to think about it, not to speak about it, not to do it. Okay, that for whatever reason that gives the Abishter great pleasure. I mean, he gave us this Nefesh Bahamid. That's a gift from him. So evidently he wants a Veda. So he likes the Aveda. What's Aveda? Aveda is when you work hard to come close. That doesn't mean you're necessarily close right now. Maybe you have to work hard to get closer. Or wherever you are isn't close enough, whatever it happens to be. You're going to beat yourself up because you have this bizarre subconscious desire? No, Boker Tov, that's you. Now just deal with it. B'simcha.
You mentioned the 2 levels, which ended up being 3, but first level is when the Yidkim Rachim come down here. Does it elevate just by coming down?
Yes, because it's
so even
fulfilling its purpose.
So even if it doesn't bring you to tshuva, it still gets elevated by
still
down.
Doing that. You know, that's the most simple level of its elevation, which isn't nearly as powerful as the elevation brought about by it arousing in us.
So it's two levels of
well, we're
elevation.
going to see. We haven't seen the next 2. We're just
the coming down is one level, and then
affecting
you
us.
Tshuva is its full level.
Right. Well, then in that themselves, there's 2. Right?
Which is where
That's where we are. The elevation that's brought about from the pleasure above, from our desire to the tshuva. Hanasa al yadei his others tshuva the adam. I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry. I'm sorry. I missed. I'm sorry. Ha'ilu shemitzad tainug de lamayla shebavedas adam ubefrat bavedas tshuva. Right, the pleasure above from the fact that we want to do tshuva, mekabel b'sever panim yafes, right? That we said the Eibishter receives graciously, right? Or is Dalet and Hey. The Rebbe explained that. Val yedei zeh, and by virtue of that level of God's pleasure being revealed, mizgala charkach, what's revealed afterwards? The 3rd level, the deeper level, hatainu ga'atzmi shebisol atzmi. The essential pleasure that the Eibishter has in our very existence. Not in what we do, even if what we do is as amazing as tshuva, but in the very fact that we are. But what triggers that is the tshuva. I keep going up there. Sorry. The shadash and the shames, that the source of the neshama of the yid, who lamayla miyasharish the Torah and mitzvahs, is higher than the sharish, the source of Torah and mitzvahs, gam mi mitzvahs tshuva, even from the mitzvah of tshuva, which we saw earlier in the Maamer. But there are three different levels of our. We're going to see this more in a sikha that we'll learn before Yom Kippur. But three basic levels of our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rabbi mentioned it just in one line, very, very quickly at the top of the page, after he talked about the pleasure the Eibusher gets in us ourselves. Right? The connection you and I have through mitzvahs, which is an incredibly powerful connection. It connects us to the essence of the Eibusher. Okay. That being said, that's the lowest expression of our connection to the Eibusher, because that depends on certain action that we do. And if we don't do that, then that level of connection doesn't exist. We can break that level of connection by doing an Aveira, God forbid. So it's a level of connection as powerful as it is, and as much as it allows us such an incredible connection to the Eibusher through that action, but it's still external, it's still the least essential of our connections because it can be broken. Then there's a level beyond that. And how do you know it's beyond that? Because when you break the first level, the second level's still there. That's called tshuva. The fact that we can, even though we did something that broke the connection based on Torah and mitzvahs, that connection isn't eternally broken. We can always fix it. We can reconnect. That's tshuva, which is indicative of an even deeper connection to the Eibusher, obviously. The mashal being someone who works for a boss. Well, if you don't work properly, you're fired. Okay, so now you have no connection to the boss. We talked about this already. You have no connection. You erase his phone number from your contacts. You have nothing to do with him anymore. Well, okay, that's true. But what if the boss is your father? You might get your job back. He fired you. Mitzad working, you're a crummy worker. He fired you. So go away. It's not doing the job. Okay. But there's still a connection that can reattach those two. And actually, they were never really separate. Right? And that's revealed through tshuva. Right? And then there's the third level, it's the essential connection with mitzvahs don't make any closer, and chassidus on leveiras don't affect negatively.
Is tshuva a mitzvah?
Yes.
But it's
This
separate
was
from
today's
the mitzvahs.
chittas.
It's a mitzvah, but it's separate from the category
Still
of
higher.
mitzvahs.
No, it's one of the 613 mitzvahs, but it's also, there's an aspect of tshuva that's also transcendent of mitzvahs. It's one of the 613 mitzvahs. This week's chittas, today's chittas, v'shavta of RB Kaplan, return to Hashem, tshuva. But it also is transcendent of mitzvahs. There's an aspect of it that's transcendent. The act of tshuva, which is defined halachically as remorse, kabbalah al-asid, right? That you're making you're making a decision relative to the future, and also you have to say al-chait, confession. Those three acts and decisions that you make in your life. So that's the function of the mitzvah of tshuva. How do you do tshuva? You have to admit doing wrong, right? You have to ask for forgiveness, and you have to make a positive resolution not to return to that silliness. If I do that, I've done the act called tshuva, the mitzvah called tshuva. But then there's also the panimis of tshuva, which is indicative of a connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu that transcends mitzvahs. Because again, if it doesn't transcend mitzvahs, so then if 3 strikes you're out, 5 strikes you're out, you figure out how many, right? How many aveiros do you do until you're no longer part of the show? There's no such thing. As long as you're in Olam Hazeh, there's no such thing. Right? You can always be part of the show. Once you're finished with Olam Hazeh, so then but it's a fait accompli. Like if the person didn't somehow fix whatever had to be fixed, so it's broken, it can't be fixed anymore. Right? So the neshama goes through certain processes to cleanse it. Right? But the down here in Olam Hazeh, what did Yogi Berra say? I think it was him. It ain't over till it's over. Is he the one that said that? Someone said that. It ain't over till it's over. Okay, right. Olam Hazeh, as long as we're down here, we can reestablish our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu on a deeper and more real level at any point in our lives. And he's waiting. Ein davar emid bifnei tshuva. Chazal says, nothing stands before tshuva. He's waiting for us. I'll get to him right after I look up something on the net. Just 1 second. I just have to look something quickly, and then I'll get to him. Just let me see this first. Okay. It's important. It's the news. It's important. I have to look it up first. So there's the two levels in our tshuva. So we said there were two levels, right? The actual tshuva, and then that which tshuva triggers, which is that third level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's connection to us, which is immutable. Right? That level is expressed through what's called emunah. Right? That's where emunah comes from. That level of our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Our challenge is to bring that essential connection down into our conscious reality, into our intellect, and that's bringing emunah into das. But the source of emunah is not intellect. As the Alter Rebbe says, no question can weaken a Jew's emunah, and no answer can strengthen a Jew's emunah. It's not based on intellect. It's beyond intellect. Now, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have an understanding of things that resonate in my intellect. Well, we're sort of intellectual things. I mean, we have other stuff happening in our life, but intellect is a pretty central part of our life. And so if we can somehow bring about a sophisticated appreciation of godliness in our intellect, so that will mean that godliness will probably be a very powerful part of our conscious life. Okay, so I'm challenged to do that. And so we learn Torah, we learn Chassidus, we Verbrang, we do all those things in order to bring about a conscious appreciation of the emunah. But the emunah itself, it's not intellect. It's beyond intellect. And the Alter Rebbe says that very, very important line. No question can weaken it, no answer can strengthen it. It is what it is. A Jew's essential connection to the Eibishter. Mm-hmm. Now, the question might weaken my conscious connection to who I really am. Okay. That can happen. Right. So, sometimes what's the answer that's not, I mean, there's lots of questions that have answers. Right? We can basically answer almost every question. There's one question, one that has many expressions of it, but there's one question that we can't answer and we'll never be able to answer. Why do bad things happen to good people? We don't have an answer. If you don't believe in God, it's not a question. It's all random. Why shouldn't it happen to him? What difference does it make? What's a good person? Right? What does that mean? Right? Okay. But once you believe in God, so then that question is a very, very, very powerful question, and we can't answer. We can explain in the most sophisticated ways imaginable how God created the world. Learn Chassidus, you will be able to explain creation of the world more clearly than your mechanic can explain the way your engine works in your car, because it's more sophisticated than the car. Yeah, as sophisticated as the car might be. And I opened the hood of our new car for the first time the other day to put something in there, and I noticed a different engine completely because it's a hybrid. It doesn't look like it's so. I looked and said, "Whoa, this is different. Look at this. Doesn't look the same at all." Right? I just try to figure out where's what. Okay, fine. So there's a mechanic who knows exactly how that works, and it's very sophisticated. Not quite as sophisticated as the world. Right? And you and I can sit and learn Chassidus and come to a very, very deep, clear, intellectual understanding of how the Eibishter created the world. Amazing. Okay. So that I can understand in Seichel. But there's things I can't understand in Seichel. The one thing we really can't understand, once there's a God, so then why do things happen that don't make sense? Okay, don't get it. There's a general answer, because God wanted it. Why in the world would he want such a thing? Haven't got a clue. Haven't got a clue. Can I come to the appreciation of that? I haven't got a clue, but somehow to him it does make sense, even though to me it doesn't. Okay, yeah, Beseder, that doesn't help me. Does it? I don't know. Maybe it does. Can't answer the question. Okay.
What about
That's the one question no one else has a problem with. Why? Why not? What difference does it make? Why shouldn't God kill 6 million Jews? I understand. That's the way it goes. They lost. Not a moral issue for them. They might think that the people who did it are not morally impressive people. Okay, I get that. But the idea that such a thing could happen, and why not? What exactly is the problem? I want you to believe in God. It's completely and totally beyond our understanding why such a thing should happen. And it's not just 6 million Jews in Europe in the 30s and the 40s. It's 1 million Somalians last month. Same thing. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's, we don't understand them. Why do these things happen in Elam Hazah? So now really you can always blame people. Beseder, okay, but the Eibishter created it in such a way that people can do that. And you and I, if we created it, probably wouldn't let people do that. And especially when they do it to people who don't deserve it. Which is nobody, because who deserves it? Maybe the guys who do it. So the guys who do it, when they pull the gun, the trigger, the bullet should go right back and kill them. Okay, that's how it should work. Right? Every time someone pulls the trigger to go kill someone who doesn't deserve to die, the Abraham should make a big wind and the bullet goes and kills that guy. Right? That's the way it should work. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. The guy at the other end dies. What's wrong?
Yesterday we had a theft.
Okay, but it's not for now. Right? Okay, so the Eibishter, knowing that we deal with all sorts of crazy stuff down here in Elam Hazah, what gives him the greatest pleasure? We somehow push the dark away and illuminate it. Gives him great pleasure. That seems to be the reason that he created the possibility of dark in the first place. The darkness comes from us, not from him. The only creature in all of reality that can do something against the will of God is the one that has intellect. So as much as intellect seems very, very nice, don't worship it. Because any society that worships intellect ends up being completely immoral. Right? It just seems to be what happens. Right? As they say, intellect is a very good servant, but a very bad master. Use it as a servant to serve God, absolutely. You can do amazing things with intellect, but don't let it control you. Don't worship it. Meaning the reason that God exists is because it makes sense to me. No, that's not why God exists. God exists because God exists. It has nothing to do with you. He doesn't exist because of you. You exist because of him. One of the things he gave this incredible gift called intellect. You can use it to write books about the fact that he doesn't exist. Okay, say them. You can also use it to learn Torah, do mitzvahs, figure out how to help people better. Do all sorts of amazing things with your intellect. It's up to us. Don't blame him. When Elie Wiesel asked the Rebbe, where was God in the Holocaust? The Rebbe answered, so where's man? Right? You look around the world now, same thing, right? We're just seeing Nazi Germany in the 30s, right? It's just happening on social media, so everybody knows. Where are they all? Where is humankind standing up for good, right, truth? Where are they? Silent. They're basically silent. There's a few people out there, a few Douglas Murrays of the world, right? Very few, right? Very few. A lot of people. Well, you gotta give them credit. 3 million Brits out on the street on Shabbos, right? There was a demonstration in London against the fact that England is being taken over by a foreign power called Islam. Now, they can't say it that way, because if they say it that way, they're called racists, and they won't be allowed to meet. So it was just called United Britain. But anybody knew what they were really bothered by. And believe it or not, some people actually burned Palestinian flags there. Oh my goodness gracious. All right? Which I don't think bothers us so much, because they, I don't think that really bothers us. But okay, I don't know, that's what you have to do in your life. But okay. 3 million people. I don't know, has there ever been a demonstration of 3 million people anywhere in the world? That's 1 in 20 Brits. That's a lot of people. That's just astounding. Now, they might have woken up a little late, but what was their basic premise? We want our country back. Like, we like Britain. I don't know, maybe you and I find Britain hard to take, but they like it. It's their country. They're allowed to have a country that they like with their traditions and their customs. People are allowed that. That's okay. Well, no, there's someone trying to take it over. They're really upset. Finally, woke Boker Tov, 3 million people. That was the police estimate. 3 million people. On the BBC, there were 12 people there. But on the Israeli channel 12 said 100,000 people. That's the anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel Israeli television statement. It's the main government station, channel 12, which no one watches. Well, unfortunately, enough people watch. But I mean, basically, they don't watch it as much as they used to. Right? That used to be the only thing they had. Okay, so they said 100,000 people. Why not lie? Who cares? You might get away with it. Now, you can't get away with it because everybody who watched them has social media and they saw a picture of it. And it's just absolutely astounding. 3 million people in one place. Whoever saw such a thing, right? That's Matan Torah, right? There were 3 million Jews at Matan Torah, right? We took up 12 kilometers. Right? From the front to the back was 12 mil. The Jews standing in the front, the Jews standing in the back. Is when we were pushed back, when the Abishah said Anochi, so the Jew standing in the front was standing in the same place as the guy in the back. And evidently that was 12 kilometers, 12 mil. It's like a long way, right? But you think 3 million people, that must be a lot of space is taken up by those people. Okay, London, downtown London, it's just everywhere. I mean, the biggest levaya ever here was about 700,000 people. Biggest funeral. It's when Jews show up. Big funerals. Okay, come, got to finish this. So I'm wasting your time. Mind? So the Abishah creates a funny world, and what does he want? He wants you and I to figure out what truth is and connect to him in that truth. That's why all that stuff is out there. So we can say no to it. Why the Abishah create that little thing with the pug nose and pink skin? So you and I won't eat it. Why not just don't create it? No. I want it to be there. And I want it to be half the price of everything you eat. And it'll be in the supermarket as you walk past it. You won't eat it anyway. Why? Because I said so. That's real. That's Olam Hazeh. The Shoresh and Hashem Zul Amaylam Yishosh Torah mitzvahs. 4 lines on it. Gami mitzvahs tshuva. Panim seicha case. That's panim seicha case. Like we said earlier in Sif Hey. I was wrapping up the whole mind. V'yesh leimar. The cave, and she's utterus tshuva d'adam. That since the arousal of the tshuva of a person, shall yoda, that through it, who agilui the panim yafes upanim seichakes, that brings about a revelation of first panim yafes, the pleasant countenance, the pleasure the Abishah gets in our desire to do tshuva, which triggers his essential desire in our very being, panim seichakes. Ba, this comes al yedei hagilui the v'doidi li. This all comes by virtue of the revelation, Agilui, the Yud Gimel Midas Arachimim Sheba Elul, the revelation of V'doidi Li, which is the 13 attributes of mercy in Elul, Lochein, HaPa'ula, the effect, the Ani L'Dodi, of Ani L'Dodi, Be on Doidi Li, the effect we have on that level of infinite godly light, who, Shagam Agilui V'doidi Li, look what the Rebbe says. The revelation of V'doidi Li, Mis'ale, is elevated, Lahatainug, to the level of pleasure of Panim Yafes, and even the level of Panim Seichakes. In other words, the level of Yud Gimel Midas Arachimim, this level of infinite godly light, which is absolutely astounding, but it's not the essence of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, is elevated up to its source in Atzmus through us. Because our source is in Atzmus, and the Yud Gimel Midas Arachim become enveloped in our essential relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and they themselves are elevated to that level. I mean, that level of godliness is elevated to that level. That's what the Rebbe just said. Atzmus, Panim Seichakes. V'yirotza, and the Rebbe says to end the Maamer. Shal yedei ma'aseinu v'avedesenu, through our deeds and our work. Language of Tanya that's borrowed by everybody in Chassidus. All of the Rebbeim use those words. Ma'aseinu v'avedesenu. Our deeds and our Aveda. Ubefrat, and particularly al yedei Aveda Chedesh Elul. Elul's not over. It's a few days of Elul left. Nizke b'karev mamish legula asida. We will merit very soon the future redemption. Sha'azia miti sinyan. then that will be the true reality of Mad Panim Seicher case, that he shows a joyous face. Kimavur B'kama Mekaymis, as is explained in a number of places in Chazal, and the Rebbe shows you where you can find it in Chassidus in footnote 48. Be'inyan Kenigia, the party, She'asi the Kadosh Baruch Hu Lases L'Tzadikim Lasi Love, the party that the Abish is going to throw for the Tzadikim Lasi Love. Right? In that party, we're going to watch the Nefesh Elokis destroy the Yetzer Hara, like, you know, it'd be like a, you know, in the arena. It's going to be a party, and we're all going to enjoy Elokus, Sheyiru Begilui, that we will see in a revealed way, Shekol Melchama D'Tevara, that all of this war, this battle of good and evil, Shebe'elam Hazeh, that exists in this world, and people might ask, why in the world did the Eibusha create a place that has the possibility of Ra? All of that, Hu Rak B'chdei She'eschik V'tainug. It's only so there should be the tremendous pleasure of the king. Meaning what? The Rebbe just said it all about what reality is about. Why did the Eibusha create the possibility of doing something that isn't what he wants? So that when we do what he wants, it's real. The possibility of not being a mensch exists, therefore we appreciate a mensch. The possibility of not saying thank you exists, so when someone says thank you, we appreciate it. Why? Because people don't say thank you. It's people who have no appreciation of anything that happens. They're not even aware of the fact that there's anybody outside of themselves. Right? It's always astounding, right? If you're driving a car and you stop at a crosswalk, notice how many people turn to you and thank you for stopping, and how many people walk by as if you don't exist, and they walk slowly. How many people start walking faster? Someone who's a normal, healthy human being will walk faster to get out of the way of that person and show some sign of thanks. A person who's an unhealthy, selfish, completely self-focused person, which unfortunately seems to be the majority of people out there, because you watch what happens at the crosswalk. They will walk by and not even notice that anybody, I mean, they notice someone stopped because they weren't hit by them. No acknowledgement whatsoever, and no appreciation of the fact that maybe they should walk a little faster because that person's waiting. None. It's astounding. Where these people grow up? Which cave? It's absolutely astounding to me. Right? And it happens all the time. So the Eibusha created people who can be like that. And they might be wearing yarmulke and tzitzis. In my neighborhood they are. Clueless. Pashut clueless to anything outside of their own religiosity, evidently, that guy who just walked past. I understand. Someone just stopped for you. They did you a favor. They could have gone through the crosswalk. They don't have to stop for you. You're standing there. They're not going to kill you. Maybe they're in a hurry. Right? Now, there are people also so clueless that they don't stop for people in crosswalks, right? That you're standing there and they'll just drive right through. No, there's a person over there. There's another creation of God over there. Maybe notice. That takes work. If you don't work at it, you're not going to notice. Okay. So therefore, you can appreciate the person who says thank you. Why? Because it took work to become that kind of person. Because if you don't do that work, you end up one of those clueless morons who will walk across and not even notice that someone did them a favor. They'll walk just as slowly while they're looking at their phone, right? Or having a conversation with the person next to them. Completely oblivious to the fact that there's a person waiting for them, who might have to get somewhere, believe it or not, might actually have something to do. Don't be that person. Someone stops, turn, thank them, and jog across. Why? They just did you a favor. Get out of their way and let them go weiter. They have something to do. No, only I do. Right? The person who cuts in front of you in line. I don't understand. I don't have the light. I don't have anything to do. Only you do. Well, what are you doing? Right? Getting on planes is always interesting. Watching people. I mean, you're all going to the same plane. You're going to arrive in the same time. Getting off the plane. There's always people who stand up and run 8 rows in front. What exactly did you just do other than be a complete moron? What have you accomplished other than showing everybody in the plane that you're an absolute moron? Like, you're going to get off the plane anyway, right? We're not getting off any faster. Now, if the person has a flight to catch, okay, what? In some airlines, what do they say? They make an announcement. Good. If you don't have a flight to catch, please sit down because there are people. We came here a little late, and there are people who have flights, and can you let them get off first? Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. And of course, there's people who don't have a flight to catch, and what do? Stand up and block those people. Why? Because that's the way God created the world, so you don't have to be that person. And if you're not that person, that means you worked at it, and it means something. Because if all of us just had a chip that made us that person, it wouldn't mean anything. We're all that way. Okay. No, there are some people who figured it out and they want to be a mensch, and there's some people who haven't figured it out and they're morons. Okay. Welcome to Elamazah. No, figure it out. Then it means something. That's exactly what the Rebbe just said it, right? The Rebbe's going to make a big party. And when we have the big party, what's going to become absolutely clear to all of us? Why the world is such a meshugana place. Why is the world such a meshugana place? It's crazy. The Rebbe has such a sense of humor. I mean, what did he have in mind? Look what he created over here. He wanted a place where without any work, you'd end up basically living in the dark. And he wants you to turn on the light. Okay, in order to turn on the light, you're going to have to do something. So then turning on the light means something. Look at the Rebbe says it. It's clear as a bell. And then our mouths will be full of joy. And this should all happen. The Rebbe says, because of Maamer should happen very, very, very soon. Rosh Hashanah, we should be in the base of Mikdash with Mashiach. And we're going to all be like first day in Mayanot, trying to figure out, okay, where are we supposed to stand? What are we supposed to do? What happens next? What are they doing up there? Is it all right for me to sit? Can I stand? We won't have a clue what's going on. We're all going to be like day one. What do I do now? Oh, who's that guy? Oh, that must be the Kohen Gadol. Oh, cool, look. Don't touch me. Am I allowed to do that here? Am I allowed to go? I don't know. Maybe not. No, not sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll get used to it. Don't worry. We'll figure it all out. Beis Hamikdash will be a piece of cake after a while. We'll know how to get in. We'll know how to get out. We'll know where we're supposed to be. What we're supposed to do. He's got a lot of work. He's going to have to learn a lot of stuff. In the old days, the Kohanim learned for 5 years and then apprenticed for 5 years. Also the Levim. Took a long time to learn all that. I mean, you think what a Kohen have to know a lot of stuff, like how to do it and what to do it and when to do it and what goes here and what goes there and which part of the animal goes over there and which part of the animal goes up in the mizbeach. There's so much to know. Okay, they figure it out.
What is the lamed?
Lasid Lavoi, probably. Lasid Lavoi.
What does that mean?
Future days. Hold on one sec. Tomorrow we're going to start a new Maamer. Hopefully we can do it in 2 days, a Rosh Hashanah Maamer, just to see something of Rosh Hashanah. Then we'll do a Yom Kippur Sikha.